And joining us in the studio right now is Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. He is an assistant professor of epidemiology at Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health. Welcome, doctor. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Since you are from the Mailman School and Dr. Spencer did go there and receive a master's there, have you ever seen him? Do you know him? I'm
sure we probably passed in the halls, but I don't know him personally.
What do you think of the governor's announcements today for mandatory quarantining in New York and New Jersey?
I think these announcements come in response to what I think is a tremendous amount of fear, and justifiably so. This is a virus for which we have no treatment that has been spreading, and it's scary. At the same time, though, I think we have to remain considerate of what the big problem here. And the big problem is that we have a huge epidemic that's raging in West Africa, and we need personnel, brave people like Dr. Spencer, who are willing to go over and help fight the epidemic. I'm afraid that this type of a policy makes it a lot harder for those people then to come home, being slapped then with a 21-day quarantine if they do come. So I think it's a little bit short-sighted, but I do recognize the fears that are driving it.
Did Dr. Spencer in any way break any medical protocols by his actions, such as taking the subway?
Well, it's important to remember that unless somebody feels the symptoms, there's no reason to believe that he or she is infectious or has contracted the disease. And Dr. Spencer, up until Thursday morning, hadn't tested positive, he'd been taking his temperature regularly twice a day, hadn't had a fever. And so in that respect, there's no reason to believe that he had the disease and that he wasn't able to move freely. So there's really no medical protocol that he broke, although looking back at it, hindsight's always 20/20. And so it seems, looking back at it, he should never have ridden the subway. Why would he do such a thing? He just came from West Africa. But you have to put yourself sort of in his position. There's no reason to believe that he has the disease. And in that circumstance, no reason to change his behavior.
But, you know, it is not just wrongdoing, but it's also the perception. And look at the reaction, and some would say the overreaction that the city is experiencing now. So if a doctor is going over there, then how should they curtail their actions in the future when they return?
I think you're absolutely right. That's a great point. And the optics of it seem difficult. And so I think moving forward, some of the organizations that are on the ground, Doctors Without Borders being the primary one, I think probably should rethink what their personnel can do or should do on their return back to the United States so as not to raise unnecessary fears.
So in the city now, with all of this heightened level of concern, what do we do? What do mere mortals who are living through this do to deal with this?
Well, I think it's just important to remember that it's really, really, really unlikely to get Ebola in New York City. We have one of the strongest departments of health in the country. The CDC has learned a lot from the case in Dallas. I think this is being handled ideally. Bellevue Hospital has run through a number of drills to make sure that they're ready to take care of a patient with Ebola. They're doing a wonderful job right now taking care of him, making sure that others are quarantined, doing the contact tracing work to make sure anybody who might have come in contact with Dr. Spencer is getting the appropriate care that they need and, if necessary, quarantined. So I think we go about our daily lives. I will ride the A train to work, or maybe not tomorrow, but on Monday.
Will you be worried if someone sneezes on you?
I won't. I won't. I think at this point, the likelihood of Ebola spreading in New York City is minimal. If somebody sneezes on me, I'm not all that happy to be sneezed on, but the fear of Ebola is not the thing that's going to come to my mind.
And we've heard the mayor say it over and over, get a flu shot. And I think that's rather confusing sometimes to people saying, what does a flu shot have to do with Ebola? What do you say?
Well, the flu takes thousands of lives a year. At this point, Ebola has taken one in the United States. And so when thinking about our health, we need to do the things that we can to protect ourselves. We're far more likely to get the flu, far more likely to get sick from the flu, and there's something that we can do to protect ourselves. At this point, it makes sense that if we really care about our health, as this Ebola scare has really brought to the consciousness the importance of health, I think we need to do the things that we can to protect ourselves, and that means getting a flu shot.
All right, Dr. El-Sayed, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.